Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Kristen Coffield. Kristen, great to have you back on the show.
Oh my gosh, I think it's been like, I don't know, it was before COVID that we first did the recording.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been such a long time. It's so crazy. The world's so much different, right?
Yeah. And I'm older. Now I'm a Medicare recipient, so
There we go. There we go. You can hardly tell, but I think one of the exciting things is that we're all a little bit older, hopefully a little bit wiser too, but you never know. I'm speaking more for myself than anything else. So before we jumped in, of course, I wanted to read a little bit more about Kristen so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's been doing and working on. And Kristen is the founder of the Culinary Cure, where she coaches motivated individuals to elevate their health and energize their lives. Expert in hydration, sleep, stress, and sustainable weight loss, she teaches purpose driven humans to turn food and habits into superpowers for health and happiness. Kristen simplifies wellness into doable daily habits that hold the key to creating a healthy span to last a lifespan while increasing focus and productivity. Kristen is the author of How Healthy People Eat, an Eater's Guide to Healthy Habits, and her foundational coaching program is the 21-day Wellness Reset. Kristen accepts highly motivated individuals for private coaching. She curates corporate wellness programs to help businesses empower their teams with tools to reclaim their health and support personal and professional success. And one of the things that I took from one of the interviews that Kristen did is she said she took back control of her life one bite at a time when she had, a point in her life that kind of pushed her towards all the awesome things that she's doing. But what I love more than anything else is that we don't realize the impact and opportunity we have to take control of our lives. And I think Kristen definitely knows this. I'm sure we're going to drill down more into that. And she was a previous guest on episode 40 of our IMCO podcast. And we were just talking about, we actually recorded that live in person. So super excited to have you back on the show, Kristen. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I am Gresh, and I'm excited to share a lot of information that everybody listening can actually apply immediately. So at the end of this podcast, we're going to give away a really special free 14-day hydration program. And nobody who's listening is going to not want to go ahead and take advantage of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I love having Kristen back on the show. She's such a wealth of knowledge and information. And we don't realize like sometimes those things are like literally right in front of us. And we just need to kind of, I guess, reset ourselves and be able to kind of leverage that tremendously. So I love that we're going to have that in the show notes so that you can take advantage of. But I guess to kick everything off, let's rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on how you got started, what you've been working on, and what I call your CEO story.
Yeah. So in my 50s, I went through what a lot of people go through. And whether it's the end of a marriage or the end of a career or some major life transition, I sort of had a tsunami of personal events that all collided and hit me at once. So, I lost my parents. There were some financial struggles. That last kid went off to college. And I faced some real life struggles that really made me have to look at my life and kind of evaluate what my priorities were. And when you go through these real life struggles, and I know a lot of people have experienced this, and even during COVID, for a lot of people, that was a really difficult time. And when you go through something like this, you start to think about all the things you can shed, what you don't need to be carrying as you continue on life, but you also realize what a gift each day is.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest things that I had, even though I was already in the wellness space, I had let my healthy habits slide. And what that led to was sort of a hamster wheel situation, if you
Mhm.
will, where you're struggling with real life challenges, and then your habits go in the dumpster, and it makes everything worse. So you're just kind of like on this treadmill. and
Mhm.
and when I got to the end of my rope, you know I I realized that I couldn't control everything, but I
Mhm.
could control what was on the end of my fork. And that really became the starting point for creating the Culinary Cure and helping other people who find themselves in a situation like that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. Obviously, sorry to hear about that tsunami that happened, but I think sometimes those propel us into a lot of the things that we're doing now and start to realign us with our whys. And I appreciate you talking about or kind of alluding to COVID as well too, because I feel like, of course, it's never always the same exact kind of disruptions that we have in our life or tsunamis, if I could say that, that we're going through. But I think those disruptive moments can give us that opportunity to kind of, be like the butterfly to shed what did serve us at one point potentially and become that new person. But we have that opportunity. Sometimes we don't always realize that.
Right. And every day is an opportunity
Mhm.
to just kind of start where you are and, take what you've got and really make something better out of it. And that's what I really learned. I would say in the past decade, if there's one thing I have really learned, it's to, well, first of all, let go of the outcome. Right. It's
Mhm.
it's all pretty much predetermined, people.
Mhm.
And we spend so much time and effort trying to make things happen that we miss a lot of where the real opportunities are.
Mm.
And so going through these transformational times in our lives, and we all do. Anybody that hasn't gone through something painful hasn't learned much, because we don't learn anything from the easy things. It's the
Mhm.
hard things that temper and shape us and mold us and force us out of the habits that keep us locked and
Mhm.
imprisoned, basically. So your habits are 43% of what you do every single day. It's
Wow.
mindless repetition. You don't think, you just act. And so when we start to look at the role our habits play in our professional lives and our personal lives, we realize we have this vast untapped resource. And when we flip the switch and go from, a habit to an intentional behavior, we can change everything.
I absolutely love that, and again, I think so many times I love the phrase that kind of came to mind. I know you said some version of this is control what you can control. I think so many times we're trying to control the things that we can't control, and being aware of like how impactful 43% of those habits and how that basically leads us not just our day, our weeks, our months, so on and so forth. Our lives end up becoming as a result of those habits, and not kind of shining light or being aware of like what those are, and seeing that we do have the power to change that.
Yeah. Yeah. Those autonomic behaviors they can really help us or hurt us. And that's kind of where I meet people at this intersection of lifestyle and wellness,
Mm.
where I teach them. And most people don't even go there. They're just like, oh, this is what you need to do, right? This
Right.
is what you need to do to change your health or to be more productive or to get better sleep. And what we really need to understand is it's these micro behaviors that we can control. We can't control everybody else. We can't
Mm.
control what's going on in the world. We can only control our little part in it. And when we start to change those micro behaviors to make them serve us better, and I'm not talking about, oh my God, let's just like redo everything. No, let's just start where we are with one or two simple things that have the ability to connect to all these other bigger things in our lives.
Mm.
And that's how you create lasting change. So it's like dieting, right?
Yeah.
Diets don't work. Sure, you go on the diet, you lose the weight, then you go and they're not sustainable. So then you go off the diet, you gain the weight back and then some, because your body and brain are fighting to bring you back to your weight set point,
Mm.
and it just becomes a vicious cycle. So when we break these big things down and we start dealing with these micro habits, well, what's a micro habit that can help you? Let's say, we're talking about weight, that can help you lose weight and keep it off, right? So we start with those micro habits. My favorite micro habit is always hydration.
Mm. Nice. I love that. And it kind of reminded me of like the 80-20, the Pareto principle, where so many
Right,
times we're not realizing those micro habits and how they're
right.
basically creating that waterfall and watershed moment for us in our lives on a daily basis, and how important that is to kind of drill in. So let me ask you this, like, how do you help people to kind of have awareness around those things? Like, could you take us through a little bit more on how you're serving your clients? I know we
Oh,
have your book and all the awesome things that you're doing with your program. Could you take us through exactly what that might look like?
yeah. Yeah, so everybody starts at the exact same place.
Mhm.
So what I learned after coaching people for a decade was that if I couldn't get people hydrated, I couldn't fix any of their other problems.
Mhm.
And hydration is this absolutely crucial habit, micro habit, right? So we have to hydrate to live. You can only go for like 3 days without water. You can go for like 30 days without food. So hydration is everything. It is linked to everything. And it is this cornerstone behavior that when we get it right, it makes all the other things happen organically and easily. But the problem is nobody's hydrating properly. So
Mhm.
people are drinking more water, but they're not boosting their water with electrolytes. They're drinking too much water at one time. They're drinking too much water late in the day. They're not eating a nutrient, plant-based diet. So they're missing out on the hydration from food. And it takes 14 days to become properly hydrated.
Mhm.
And most people don't understand that. So they drink a lot of water on Monday and then by Friday they're down to, 30 ounces. Or as my mother-in-law, I said, "Oh, Deb, honey, you got to drink more water." She's 90 and she's had kidney stones. And she goes,
Mhm.
"Kristen, I drink 8 glasses of water a day." And there are the 8 little juice glasses, right? So each glass is like 4 ounces, right?
Right.
And that's just not gonna do it, right? So getting hydrated, understanding the role hydration plays, um, in our productivity, so everybody listening is like, well, what can I do to up level my productivity? You can get more hydrated. If you're
Mhm.
even a little dehydrated, it affects your ability, your cognitive ability to make good decisions. And that's all kinds of decisions. That's what you eat and drink. It's how you're going to respond to the person in front of you that just slammed on their brakes. And it's the decisions you make in a professional setting. So your body and brain are 60 to 80% water, and most of us are drinking a lot of beverages each day that are actually dehydrating.
Wow.
So, alcohol, coffee, um, a lot of sports drinks have a lot of chemicals and things in them, soda, all anything with artificial ingredients has the
Mhm.
potential to be a little bit dehydrating. And we are also sitting in front of screens all day. So the magnetic energy that we're exposed to also has a dehydrating effect on us.
Mhm.
And when we're asleep, our body and brain, our body is in fasting mode so that our brain and all of our major organs can go through their cycle, their detox cycle. So
Mhm.
it's like changing the oil in your car. So
Mhm.
every night, your body and brain go through this metabolic detox, and all that metabolic waste that's accumulated from your organs functioning properly ends up in your lymphatic system. So the first thing you want to do when you end that fast that occurs during sleep is rehydrate with a nice
Mhm.
big glass of water, like Tom Brady. Tom Brady does 24 ounces of electrolyte boosted water every morning when he wakes up. But most of us aren't doing that. We're reaching for a cup of coffee, which is a diuretic, which is partially dehydrating. And now we've kind of started our day at a hydration deficit, and that can lead to food cravings and poor food choices. So, if people are worried about, overeating or, getting the right nutrients, it can lead to hangry behavior.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
don't need that. For
Right.
women, it can lead to disrupted hormones.
Mhm.
So we just, Here's this micro habit that we have to do to live. And yet, most of us don't understand how it works and how to optimize it. And it's this powerful tool because when you're drinking enough water and you're drinking it consistently and constantly throughout the day, it literally gives you superpowers. And for anybody listening, it will dial down your stress, it will improve your sleep, and it will energize you. It'll give you more energy.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you so much in sharing that. And I almost wonder if like your awareness of that is part of like your secret sauce. And what I mean by that is that I don't think we realize like how impactful hydration is for our businesses, our lives, the things that we're doing, but also our roles, as we were talking about before we hopped on this, as mother, father, son, daughter, whatever it is, grandparent, whatever those are, we sometimes don't realize like how impactful that micro habit and paying attention to that and doing that in the right way can be in so many different aspects of that. So I wonder if part of that secret sauce is your ability to kind of see that, not just, okay, this helps you out for this one thing, but how it
Right.
can really, you can see the forest for the trees and see how this impacts you in so many other ways too.
Yeah, it absolutely is the secret sauce because I would say that most people. Well, here's a pretty typical scenario, and anybody listening, like you're going to be like shaking your head, yeah, yeah, that's me, that's me. If you ever wake up in the morning and your first feeling is anxiety, or your first thought is, oh my gosh, I've got so much on my plate today,
Mhm.
or you're worried about something, it could be personal or professional, um, that right there, you're waking up and you're in your subconscious mind. So, your subconscious mind is where your inner critic lives, it's where anxiety thrives. And, that inner critic, give your inner critic a name because, many of us have very strong inner critics and they're always working hard to pull us back to the old patterns of behavior that we might have needed to keep us safe at one point in our lives. But when you get up and you have a powerful morning routine, and this is going to tie into the hydration,
Mhm.
the power of a morning routine gives you control over your inner critic. So you wake up, your first thought is that anxiety thought, and you're like, oh no, 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 we're not going there today, inner critic. Um, you take your mind from the subconscious into the conscious. And this is really a secret sauce in and of itself. You think positive, happy thoughts. And that
Mhm.
might be prayer for some people. It might be meditation for some people. It might just be thinking about your pet or someone you're going to see today or all the things you're grateful for. And that simple flip of the switch takes you from your subconscious to your conscious mind. That's step 1 of a powerful morning routine. Step 2, hydrate. So you
Mhm.
take control of your mind and then you take control of your body.
Nice. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that, again, it's those things like we go back to control what you can control. Because I think not being aware of like what's happening to us as we were waking up and we pop into that anxiety or anxious moment, maybe I should say, and then have
Yeah,
that
yeah.
subconscious start to take control. Sometimes we don't realize that we can have that powerful morning routine so that we can, I don't know if the right word is combat, but at least be more proactive so those things don't happen.
Yeah, just being aware of it is enough to help you change it. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen over time and just practicing it. So when you wake up in the morning, where are you? Am I in my subconscious mind? Am I in my conscious mind? Do I want to be in my conscious mind? Absolutely. So, how am I going to do that? I am going to fill my mind with excitement, enthusiasm, and positive thoughts. Even if you have a terrifying day in front of you, taking back that moment will change the momentum of your day and put things in your favor. And the hydration improves your sleep. So, I'm going to, just while we're talking about sleep, because this is such a big one for so many people,
Mhm.
we struggle with sleep. We have disrupted sleep. We're not sure if we're getting enough sleep. And I was coaching a client this morning and I said, "Now, how did you feel when you woke up this morning?" And she said, "Well, this is what happened. I woke up at 2 o'clock and I had a hard time going back to sleep. So when my alarm went off, I slept until 6:30. And so instead of getting up when I like to get up, which is at 5, because I have my whole morning routine, so it really threw me off and I have so much to do today." And my first question was, "Well, how did you know it was 2 o'clock?"
Mm,
Right?
grab
Because
that phone.
the cardinal rule is don't look at your phone,
Yeah.
because the blue light lights up your brain and it makes it almost impossible to fall back asleep. So if you
Mm,
wake up at 2 o'clock and you're like, uh-oh, and you don't know what time it is, don't even bother to look at your clock. Your alarm
mhm,
will wake you up when it's time to get up. But this is an amazing opportunity to take a thought vacation. And this is something we don't allow ourselves to do enough in our daily lives, is focus and think of pleasurable things. So if you wake up and you don't know what time it is, your job is to take a thought vacation
mm.
and just only think about pleasant things. A vacation you're going to take, someone you're looking forward to seeing, some project you're excited to work on. And I promise you, it doesn't matter if your alarm goes off in 2 hours or 20 minutes. You will wake up and have a better day because you had all those positive thoughts in your brain.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And I almost wonder if that's kind of like one of the CO hacks, or actually two of those CO hacks, is how impactful that morning routine is, of course, including that hydration, but also too I'm going to say that positive thought, journey, and being able kind of vacation and be able to kind of understand how that can, I imagine, lull you back to sleep is like one of those things that we don't realize the things that we're doing that can be defeating the goal that we ultimately have. If I want to get up at 5 a.m. by, looking at my phone, I'm defeating what my goal is. We don't sometimes understand how we're counteracting that.
And it's kind of like jet lag, right?
Mm,
So sorry you woke up in the night, but guess what? Not everybody sleeps through the night every night. It's
mm,
normal to have some nights where you're like, whoa, I shut my eyes and then I woke up the next day well rested. And other nights, for women, a lot of it might have to do with the moon cycle.
mhm.
Or if you have a menstrual cycle, that can affect it. Stress in our lives can affect it. So just accept that every night you're not going to have what you think of as perfect sleep, but you still might be getting deep restorative rest. And let go of the outcome and the idea that every night's got to be this perfect sleep, and embrace more, that the rest you're getting, and just relax. It's this hyperactivity where we're like, looking at our screens all the time. Oh, and get off your phone an hour before you want to fall asleep, right?
Mhm.
Guys, you got to put your phone to bed. Unless you're an emergency room doctor, people can leave you a message. Like, you can put your phone away and just give yourself some time so that you're doing the best for you, because you need to show up. You need to show up at work, you need to show up for your family, you need to show up for your community, and to be the best version of yourself, you've got to have some healthy boundaries. So that's my rant.
There you go. No, those hacks are phenomenal, and I love that rant just because I think so many times we can end up competing with ourselves because we have to be perfect at sleeping. We have to be perfect at this thing, that thing, all the things. But that phrase you said is so powerful, to let go of that. And I almost feel like you armed us with. I feel like we have a tool belt on, and we have all these tools that we didn't realize that we had that are right before us, so that we can, at the end of the day, get our goal, which is to be able to be in a restorative place when we wake up, to be able to be in a positive place, so that we can, I think Tony Robbins said, in order to win the day, you have to win the morning, so that we can win the morning, so that the craziness that might happen during the day, we are at least armed with the tools, with the opportunity to be able to have a phenomenal day, even with the craziness. And I think if we don't have awareness around those things and don't obviously have those tools, then it makes it a lot harder for us to kind of get to where we want to go.
Right. And flipping the switch from mindless behavior, the 43% of what we do every day without thinking about it, to mindful behavior is where the magic happens. And I would take Tony's statement one step further.
Mm-hmm.
A great morning starts the night before.
Mm,
So if you want to have an amazing sleep, you put your phone to bed an hour before you want to go to bed. And know this, most of your deep restorative rest happens between 10 p.m. and midnight.
mm,
So for the night owls listening, you can start to, rejigger these habits. We are designed to work on the circadian cycle, the light dark cycle. And when you get out and you look at the morning sun, without sunglasses on, that those rays from the sun send a color coded message through your eyes to your brain that it's morning, it's time to be awake, let's get that cortisol going, right? And the same happens at the end of the day. So the fact that we're on screens so much and we're removed from natural sunlight has a big impact on the quality of our sleep. So just know that if you can start to work your bedtime earlier a little bit, you know what most people do, most of those night owls, it's a learned behavior.
mm,
And what happened was, and some people will tell you they've always been that way, but really for most people what happened was they learned how to work through their tired time and get a second wind.
mm,
So there's nothing you're doing as a night owl that you can't do in the early hours of the morning. So it's not going to work for everyone. A lot of people are like, hey, I love being a night owl. That's my magic time. But when you look at brain research and a lot of the studies about our brains and our aging brains, there's a lot to be said for early to bed, early to rise, and really taking care of the only body and brain you ever get.
Yeah, and it's so important because it was saying you can't pour from an empty cup and to be able to kind of fill yourself back up. But I think so many times we may not be aware of all the things that are happening, unaware of the learned behaviors that we might have. But I think it's just so important that you've been, letting us know about this so that we can, at the end of the day, at least at the very least, evaluate what we're doing, why we're doing it, so that we can ultimately get to those great sleeps, those great mornings, those great days, great years, great month, all those things that happen as a result of those foundational micro habits. So, what would you consider to be a little bit more of what I call a CEO nugget? You might have already touched on this. It could be something you would tell your younger business self if you were to hop into a time machine, or you might tell your favorite client.
Yeah. I would absolutely emphasize that your health and wellness are is the most important tool for having a successful business. They are not separate things. And very much of the messaging that many of us got as we were developing our companies and building our brands is that, oh, you can sleep when you're dead, or, just have another cup of coffee, or, work just you can work as many hours as you want. And there is a huge difference between you know, grinding and being productive.
Mm,
And very often in the messaging we got about just grinding it out, just like making it happen, what we're missing is the joy of the achievements and the process and the human connection. And we talked a little before the podcast about, the soft skills that make us better people to work with and for, and better family members, better friends. So, the goal at the end of the day is to like feel good every single day. That is priceless. If you sacrificed your health for your career, that what is the joy in that? How is that serving your family and your community and your business? These are two parts of your life and they go together. And the best currency is happiness. So, being happy at what you do, being healthy, you lose your health, you'll spend all your time and money trying to get it back. So,
mm.
invest in both and see how they're connected.
Nice. I love that word that you said, and invest. And I think so many times we can live life or approach life or even make decisions in silos. We can say, okay, we're going to grind here. But at the same time, we have the goal and aspiration to have, a healthy life or a healthy marriage or a healthy, relationship with our son or whatever that is. And we don't realize like how all of these decisions are not just silos. They're actually very interdependent. They're very interwoven. So it's so important for us to take care of those things so that we can have the great relationships, that we can have the great businesses, we can, crush those goals, and we don't have to sacrifice our happiness in order to do that. And I think once we start to, I guess, accept that, have awareness of that, then we can start to take those actions to make sure that that happens.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition, what it means to be a CEO. And our goal is to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So, Kristen, what does being a CEO mean to you?
It means that I take what I'm passionate about and I repackage it in a way. I see myself as an interpreter of
Mm,
knowledge. And so it's like I'm a culinary wellness coach. So I create recipes that make sort of these bigger, more complicated themes and ideas easy for people to digest.
I love that. I love that word interpreter. And I think it's just so powerful because the saying always is that a true sign of like being an expert and being intelligent and knowing your craft is to not just be able to kind of take in that information, but to be able to simplify it and translate it, interpret it for people to be able to understand and put into their lives. So I truly love that definition because it talks about like the entire journey of not just, being able to kind of take in the information, but I imagine the years and years and years and experience that you have being able to translate that and interpret that as it has come as a result of that.
Yeah, and I love what I do. You can probably tell. I'm
Yeah,
very
just a little bit.
passionate, and I do sometimes with private clients find myself a little bit like a psychologist because food is so deeply connected to people's lives in so many ways. But I love what I do, and what I really like to say is, I am just trying to save the world one bite at a time.
Love that. Love that. And so, Kristen, truly appreciate that definition and that perspective. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So, what I want to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find out about your book, your course, all the awesome things that you're working on.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, everything Kristen Coffield can be found at theculinarycure.com. And I have, besides being a coach and creating programs that are really doable for everyone, I have over 200 original healthy recipes on my website that are all free. My book is How Healthy People Eat, An Eater's Guide to Healthy Habits. You can find that on my website. And I am just really excited to share the 14-day hydration program. It's absolutely free. It's a great program. There's a quiz. You're going to get daily emails. And the reason it's 14 days is because it takes 14 days to become properly hydrated. So not only do I tell you how to do it, I tell you why it's important, and I take you through 14 days so you experience the transformation of finally becoming properly hydrated.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And of course, to make that even easier, we'll have the links and information in the show notes as well, too, so that everybody can follow up with you. And Kristen, I just wanted to touch on something that I think we talked about before we popped in. You said the hydration is a big part and also creates a foundational element to the fasting, the nutrition, all those things kind of go hand in hand. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I have three pillars. Thank you for reminding me. I get so excited talking about sleep and hydration.
Yeah.
The way I coach people is I start everybody with hydration. And then we move into intentional nutrition. And part of that is eliminating the most highly inflammatory foods. So, this
Mhm.
is a big problem, that low level IgG inflammation that many of us have, but we're not really aware of it because it's this low level inflammation. It's not like a pounding headache, but you might just not feel like the best version of yourself. You might feel a little meh, a little low energy. And this low level inflammation is linked to every disease we never want to have.
Mhm.
So we get rid of the high inflammatory foods. We focus on the nutrient dense foods. I teach people to have a better understanding of how to eat seasonally. It's not about the calories, it's about the nutrients. So I teach
Mhm.
you how to get your money's worth out of the nutrients. And then from there, I move into functional fasting. Because for anybody who wants to live younger longer, and to have more energy and bandwidth for all the things that matter most in their life, it's important to understand how we can use fasting to accelerate the repair and recovery process in our brains and bodies. And learning how to fast gives you a little control over how you look, how you feel, and how you age. So those are my three pillars. My programs cover all of that, and I have a fasting program, a fasting for health program. Fasting is so much more than just only eating for 8 hours. People are doing so much wrong with fasting. So I like to give people the tools. My goal is to educate you and then give you the tools to take control of your own health.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I truly appreciate you for empowering so many people and empowering us today. So, like I mentioned, we're definitely going to have the information in the show notes as well too, so that everybody can follow up with you, including those three pillars and all the awesome things that you're really doing. So, truly appreciate you so much for hopping back on with us today, and look forward to the next time and the time after that. But I think the thing that really stuck out to me was that we so often can look at our life in pillars and saying this doesn't affect that, that doesn't affect this. But whether we're grandparent, whether we're a son, daughter, whether we're talking about hydration or we're talking about our business, those things are all part of who we are. If we have that holistic mentality and that approach, then we can start to really see that happiness that we want to have in our life. So thank you so much for that. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you so much for having me on. Now, everybody grab a glass of water.
Absolutely.